I do have experience in e-com. I just never done all those things that you need to do when you start a brand myself.
Yep.
But I saw it as a great challenge, and I thought let's give it a go. We launched 12 months ago. Things have been going really well. I'm very happy how things have been going.
12 months. That's all you've been going.
Yeah.
Good on you.
And now we're at 3 types of shorts, 26 colorways, times 7 sizes. So we're already over 140 SKUs now.
Wow.
Cashflow is becoming a bit of an
Yeah.
issue, and inventory management.
Yep.
So if there's also one thing that I would have done differently, is to go to trade shows in the country that you want to produce.
Okay, it's a good tip.
And meet vendors.
Yep. So what are those sleepless nights then? Talk to us about that. What is the stress? Is it cash flow? Is it product quality? Is it inventory management? Is it advertising and marketing? It's probably all of them, right?
All of those are different. So for me, like with product, it's always still if it's gonna arrive, you do like a quality inspection.
Okay.
Like when you're starting a brand, like every order is important.
Yeah.
And you also you check every order just to make sure that sort of where does it go to, what are they ordering.
Absolutely.
And then the first few months, I started to see like returning customers, but they don't just come back for another pair of shorts. For example, there was a customer, he ordered 1 pair of black shorts, and 2 weeks later he comes back and orders 6 more.
Okay.
The same size, same color.
Welcome to eCommerce Australia. We're joined today, long-time listener, first-time e-commerce founder, first-time podcast appearance, but he also has an extensive background in e-commerce, which we'll touch on. A great guy as well. We're currently the founder of Frankster, perfect everyday shorts. Welcome to the studio, Niels Hoeben.
Ryan, thanks, man.
If I pronounce your second name correct there, I can slaughter names. So how do I?
Well, we have a long podcast to go, so I'll just say yes. But the official pronunciation, how we pronounce it in Dutch is Hoeben.
Hoeben. Niels Hoeben. There we go.
Right.
Does that sound Dutch?
Absolutely. Thanks, man. It's great to be here.
Awesome, mate. So you're a South Melbourne local. We've caught up for a few coffees. You reached out. We first met at e-commerce event. Let's call it the Add to Cart, Nathan Bush event in Richmond. And you come up to me and said that you listened to the show. And we caught up for a couple of coffees, and I thought you got a really interesting story. You got a great product that you're selling. I should have worn them today. It would have been even perfect for the podcast, but I'm just wearing these old, I won't mention the name, brand. So, mate, really wanted to understand, we have all sorts of different types of businesses on this podcast, and everyone can really tell a story and there's things to learn. But given your extensive background in e-commerce as well, we delve into that. So, mate, we worked at 2 Times You, not together, but I was there for a few years, and then I left, and you sort of come over from overseas. And so, do you want to give us a bit of a background before we get into Frankster? Do you want to give us a bit of a background in your e-commerce journey? And you've worked for some pretty impressive brands such as Adidas and Booking.com. So it's obviously held you in pretty good stead to now have your own e-commerce business. But tell us a bit about the background.
Yeah, sure. No, would love to. And again, thanks for being on the show.
No worries.
I told you, I've been now living for almost 3 years in Australia, and I think I've been listening to your podcast almost for those 3 years.
Oh, you're a good man.
It's a good way to sort of get into the industry and the scene and get to know the people. So it's a privilege to be on here today.
Very kind, mate. Very kind.
And then how I got into e-com. Well, I've been in e-com for a long time. I think like 12, 13, 14 years.
Yep.
It started with Tommy Hilfiger and Klein.
Nice.
I used to work for them. What are we talking now? 2000?
What were you doing
14?
for them?
Well, I have a background in finance. I used to work actually in banking, and I've been in consulting, worked for private equity. And I was working at Tommy Hilfiger, like corporate strategy job at the headquarters, very sort of managerial, high-level strategy. And that was in the time that e-commerce actually could become more and more important. And it used to be sitting in either like IT or in marketing.
Yeah.
And around that time, people started to realize the value of e-com, also in like a sales point of view. And when it became more important, I think you saw a lot of guys with maybe and women with sort of a financial and strategical background going into e-com.
Yeah.
And I got a fantastic opportunity to move from Tommy Hilfiger and Calvin Klein headquarters to Japan to lead the e-commerce business there.
Nice. Okay.
So it was in 14. Sorry.
2014. Okay.
Yeah.
So what? 11 years ago.
Yeah. So 2014, I had the opportunity to move to Japan and for those 2 brands lead e-com. which was a fantastic experience.
Brilliant.
And after that, actually always been in various e-com leadership roles for brands like Adidas, and then also here in Australia first 2XU.
Nice. Yeah, fantastic. What it would have changed a lot since you started in e-com. What was it like back in 2014, 2015, working for Tommy Hilfiger and Calvin Klein? Like, was SEO a thing? Whether Google AdWords would have been, a tenth of the price what it was now.
True.
Do you remember back to what some of the challenges were in e-commerce back then?
It's funny that you say that. I think like a lot of things have changed.
Yeah.
And like what they always say right now, it's probably easier than ever to run an e-commerce business, but maybe more difficult to actually break through. Back then, there was probably less competition. The market was smaller, but it was all a bit more concentrated. And if I think about the tools that you had back then, it wasn't as vast, or just the number of tools that were available was a bit less.
Yep.
But probably much more customization, much more development.
Yeah.
Much more tweaking, like with internal developers was needed versus right now where you can basically, for every type of problem that you have, there's an app or a solution that you can maybe take off the shelf. And when you ask me the question also when it comes to like performance marketing, it was around, but it wasn't as big as it was right now. So I think back then you were even relying more on the brand side than just on the performance marketing.
Yeah, interesting. Because I feel like it's almost starting to shift back now. Performance marketing has not ruined it, but it's so, as you said, it's so easy to have an e-commerce store now, and especially through the pandemic and things, everyone had to then shift online, spend went online. All of a sudden, the cost per clicks and CPMs across digital is crazy. It's really, really competitive, and so it's almost going back to brands that can actually build a good brand and tell a good brand story are actually more profitable than ones that are relying on performance marketing. So there's ebbs and flows of it all. So what year did you move to Australia?
That was in 2022. So in March, so almost 3 years ago.
Yeah, nice. And one of the reasons that you moved out to Australia was to take up a position for 2XU.
Correct.
In the e-commerce team.
Yep.
Yeah. How did you find that? I was obviously I've worked for 2XU, and a quick snapshot on the brand. The first 10 or 11 years were amazing. Then they had some competitors come in and they wanted to grow internationally and expand, and I feel like they hit some headwinds. I think at one point in time they were trying to go public, and so really bulked up the finance team, and then the economy dropped in the US, and it never sort of really kept going on that heights, even though the founders did extremely well out of the business. You would have come into 2XU at a really interesting time where they were still kind of almost trying to get that second wind and re-identify where they play. Are they performance? Are they athleisure? Are they casual? Who's their target? There would have been so many questions. So it would have been an interesting role to step into.
It was. It was interesting. It was very challenging. And I think all the questions that you just raised that we tried to find answers for. And it was difficult. Like you come into a brand with a very aggressive private equity owner who already had that brand for too long on his books.
Who was it? Was that El Cadden?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And what brands do they have? They have R.M. Williams, C. Folly. Do they have those sorts of brands, don't they?
And C. Folly was always a brand that we're sort of being compared to.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of, for example, we used one of the, like a big influencer that did a campaign for C. Folly that was also then being used for a 2XU campaign.
Okay.
Laura Worthington was her name.
Okay.
Big campaigns then, was very much pushed top down. It is difficult. I think for every brand you go to a certain maturity curve. And with 2XU, obviously, they were at the top of that curve maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. Then it started to trend down, and you've been trying to sort of reignite the brand, trying to find what was it that made it thick, how can we connect to the consumer again. And at the same time, he got very aggressive sales targets.
Thanks for listening to eCommerce Australia. A quick note to let you guys know I run my own e-commerce SEO agency in Melbourne, and we'd love to work with you and your brand in growing your organic traffic in 2025. We have a small but select and elite team. Click on the link in the show notes below to start your complimentary free audit. No obligation, just great advice. We'll give you a great overview and some directions for 2025 from a team who cares deeply about your success. Back to the show.
And I remember back then there was, on the one hand, it's difficult to retain talent because there's so much happening. There's a lot of turmoil. It's difficult to keep people interested and engaged.
Yep.
And on the other hand, you have a private equity firm who demands results at the end of each month.
Yeah.
So you come into sort of a cycle, which isn't always positive, where you're behind on targets. There's not much you can do except for cranking up discounts and running promotions again the last week of the month because you need to hit certain monthly sales targets, which is very challenging.
Yeah.
And we started off with like the right intentions and with a lot of motivation and ambition. But I can't say that we've been extremely successful as a management team in that position.
Yep. Yeah. Well, as I said, it's you inherited a brand that was struggling is probably the wrong word to sort of assume because they've been out there for a while. But definitely, I think there's an identity there that needs to be refound. Performance where there's just a lot more players in that space now. Lululemon come in and. We 2 times it was always human performance multiplied, right?
Yep.
So it was always performance driven, and then the market of athleisure really exploded, and they tried to sort of, for the first 10 or 12 years, they were saying we're not an athleisure brand, we're a performance brand, and then having to try and then pivot and change that story, and I feel like they lost their way a little bit, but. Look, let's not harp on 2 times you too much because, mate, you're doing your own thing now. So let's understand more about that journey. How did Frankster come about? I believe the name was from a pet. Is it a pug or a French bulldog? French bulldog. That's it.
Yeah, a Japanese French bulldog.
Japanese French bulldog.
Yeah, he's been with me for a long time. He's an amazing doggy. He's now 7 years old.
Nice. Frankie's, right?
And the name is Frankie.
Yeah.
Now, Frankie.com.au was already taken. So I was looking for like variations. And as I started like a men's shorts brand, I thought Frankster has like a nice masculine ring to it.
Yep.
So then I decided to go for Frankster. But yeah, why starting an own brand? I think like every founder story is different. Some have like really a problem that they experiencing in their daily life that they want to solve. Others have a very strong connection to whatever it may be. For myself, I think I've worked, we talked about my journey and the brands that I work for. I worked for so long for apparel, fashion, accessory, footwear brands that already for a long time I did want to start something for myself. But you're still looking for the right time and sort of the opportunity. And for me, that opportunity came on the one hand that I'm now living in Australia. I feel home here. It's a great place to live. I'm not going anywhere anymore.
Yep.
So, yeah, if now I have the time, this is the time to do it. We just talked about how, on the one hand, it's never been easier to actually start a brand, to start an e-commerce business, but it's also very hard to break through. So it was also a beautiful challenge. And after 2 times you, I still remember very clearly sort of orientating myself again, okay, what to do next. I had that idea of starting something for myself in the head, but also I've been relatively new to this market.
Yeah.
I've only been living it for like 1.5 years.
Yeah.
Starting a brand is easy. Doing it in a country where you just started to live in makes it even harder.
Yep.
And also something about me personally, like I'm a single dad.
Yep.
My priorities always will be first with my daughter and then with the brand.
How old's the daughter? Like what age?
She's now 5 years old.
5. Okay, so yeah, a lot of care and a lot of attention.
Time.
Yeah.
So I was going through this phase of talking to other companies, of maybe joining them.
Yep.
I was talking to some corporates. I was also talking to some younger brands who did extremely well and were maybe looking to professionalize their business. And I was having talks with them, and I realized, actually, I want to be the person on the other side of the table. I want to have that brand that's doing well. I want to really build something up just from the ground, just by me. So, starting to dig deeper into it. And I think at the moment, you have brands that just focus on one thing and execute it very well.
Yeah.
Like what I've done was look very carefully at like maybe in the US or Europe, where you have a brand like, a true classic selling T-shirts for men. there are thousands of brands selling t-shirts for men.
Yeah.
But they just focus on it. They execute it better than anyone else.
Yep.
And within a few years, they're doing hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yep.
And of course, you got numerous of those brands that just focus on one thing, execute it well. And for me, coming to Australia, I'm originally from the Netherlands in Europe. You got beautiful, even though people always complain about the weather in Melbourne.
Yeah.
I think it's still pretty great weather. Also in other parts of the country. And I started to think about men's shorts. As in, you've got a lot of brands selling men's shorts, but you don't really have a men's shorts brand that just does that and just execute that perfectly.
Yeah.
You've got swim short brands. You've got sort of performance-based brands. But just your everyday shorts, I couldn't find it, at least.
Yeah.
So
We got surf brands as well, but they're a lot of things to a lot of people as well. Yeah.
So I think there's a market for it.
Yeah.
I do have experience in e-com. I just never done all those things that you need to do when you start a brand myself.
Yep.
But I saw there's a great challenge, and I thought let's give it a go.
Nice. I think to your point around specializing in one area too, like even for my business, when I first started, I was doing everything. I was doing email automation. I was doing, I had partners who would do email automation. So an SEO, PPC, social ads, building websites, and quickly realized that I think that the way of the generalist is not working. I think you've got to be really focused on one, just nail one thing and do it really well. So, whilst you're in e-commerce and I'm in sort of, professional services, I think, me specializing in just e-commerce SEO and you just doing shorts makes a lot of sense, right? And
I think so too. Well, you with SEO,
yeah,
when you want to become like a topical authority, it
Yeah.
helps when you can only focus on a limited set of keywords.
yep,
Then if you also have to think about different genders, different categories with tops and bottoms and outerwear and underwear. I think right now that's the beauty I think also about e-com. You don't have to fill a physical retail store where you need 300-400 SKUs.
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
just focus on a few items and do those very well.
So you've got one SKU, 9 colors, or has that changed?
I wish. It's getting already way too complicated. So I started off one type of short, 12 colors,
Yep.
but on 7 sizes.
Okay.
So you already have, I think, 84 SKUs
Yes.
from like an inventory and warehouse point of view. We launched 12 months ago. Things have been going really well. I'm very happy how things have been
12
going.
months. That's all you've been going.
Yeah.
Good on you.
And now we're at 3 types of shorts, 26 colorways, times 7 sizes. So we're already over 140 SKUs now.
Wow.
Cashflow is becoming a bit of an
Yeah.
issue, and inventory management.
Yep.
But still focusing on men's shorts, right? That is the focus, and that's
Yep.
also what the focus will be for the coming few years. But yeah, no, you do want to, at a certain point, you do want to, I think, expand within that category that you have.
Yep. What are some of the lessons you've learned then? So obviously it's raw, right, in the first 12 months, and you've got an extensive background in e-com, but what are things that you didn't kind of bank on in that first 12 months? Like, what's been the challenge?
All right, I made a lot of mistakes, I think, in the past 12 months.
A lot of fuck ups, mate. You could say that. Yeah. We could swear on this a little bit.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, a lot of fuck ups. First of all, I think when it comes to product and sourcing,
Yep.
if there's still one thing that gives me headaches and that keeps me up at night is the actual product.
Yep.
Like for me personally, I worked for over a decade in e-com for apparel brands, but I've never set foot in the factory.
Okay.
I've never made what they call like a tech pack, so the technical drawing of the garment with the fabric,
Yep.
the sizing, all the measurements. So what I've done was I hired a sourcing agent.
Okay.
So I created a tech pack.
Yep.
I knew what I wanted from a product point of view, but then
Yep.
you need to find a factory
Yep.
to actually.
So you created a
produce it.
tech pack. You basically measured out shorts, what you wanted, the length of everything,
Yep,
and
the fabric.
the fabric, yep.
Everything basically
Yep.
that goes into.
How did you know the fabric?
So what I've done was to use different samples. You look at what's out there in the market.
Okay, yep.
There's like information that you can get on that.
So you got a heap of different fabrics and then chose the one you wanted, did the tech pack up, and then you used a sourcing agent.
And then when it comes to the fabric, and especially like when you make like chino shorts, it's the majority is like 98% cotton. You add like 2% of like elastane to make it a little bit stretchy.
Yeah. Your shorts are really stretchy.
It's the right amount of stretch. The right amount of stretch.
Yeah.
But then you need to find a factory, and you think about, okay, first of all, where do you want to produce? Is it Australia? Might be possible, but it's going to be very expensive, and not sure if that's feasible, especially if you start to scale and to grow. I looked at Bali, in Indonesia, a little bit closer to here.
Yep.
But when you want certain production capabilities, Bali wasn't the right fit.
Are they a little bit slower to sort of turn things around?
Lead times are longer. They don't always have all the right fabrics and colors available.
Yep.
So for me, I sell then on China. And the funny thing is, when you think about China, a lot of people think that's like a low-cost country. It's not anymore.
Okay.
Probably if you look at sort of your value retailers, like your Kmarts or Connors or you name it, they don't even produce in China. They all go to like a Bangladesh or India. Yeah. That is like where you now go for lower cost apparel production.
Yep.
So I focused on China.
Yep.
Hired a sourcing agent, as I didn't know any factories. I tried to reach out to them, but then you get into communication issues. You have no clue on if they're trustworthy or not.
Yeah.
But that all went completely wrong with the sourcing agents. Actually, I'm now in like a VCAT legal case with them. Yeah, they screwed me over big time.
Oh no, sorry to hear that. But yeah, I guess it's something that probably a lot of e-com brands in that fashion space can relate to. When once they're getting up and running early,
I think those first production batches, it's very tricky.
Not what you expected?
Not at all. It took longer. It costed more. Much more steps involved. And it's a big risk. The thing is that you're not close to where it's actually happening. It's happening in a different country, a few thousand kilometers away from here. So if there's also one thing that I would have done differently, is to go to trade shows in the country that you want to produce.
Okay, that's a good tip.
And meet vendors.
Yep.
I've done that. So for my second batch, I've been to China. I've been to in Guangzhou. It's called the Canton Fair.
Okay.
It's like mind-blowing.
Really?
Anything that you want to develop or produce, they have manufacturers there. It's like buildings, like as far as the eye can see, 3-story tall, like thousands and thousands of booths, all from factories and vendors.
Yeah, right.
And I walked around there for like 2 days, and I've got 30, 40 business cards with factories that could produce my product.
Yep.
And then you narrow it down, I think from 45 made samples, 2 made prototypes, and then the best one I signed the next purchase order with.
Okay.
And that is still my partner today, and they've done amazing stuff.
That's a great tip.
So
get into the country where you want to be manufacturing and get to the trade shows and meet the people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. So that was sort of 12 months ago, or was that even a bit longer? Like you've obviously been live for 12 months, but how long did that process take?
So I think 14 months ago, when that first shipment started to develop, that I realized this is not how it should be.
Okay.
The cost price we agreed on a certain amount of dollars, and it turned out to be 50% higher than what we agreed because of all types of cost added up. Lead times were longer. The quality also wasn't what we agreed upon in the first place.
Yep.
So I went to the trade show, I think about 13 or 14 months ago.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. That's mate, so from 0 to 12 months now, how do I ask you this without asking revenue numbers? You would have done some projections. Are you happy with where you're at in the first 12 months of business?
It's funny, if you would ask me 12 months ago, are you happy with what I'm at the moment? I would have said yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here, I'm like, there's still like so much that we could have done.
Yeah.
And it's never like a linear way up, right? It goes with up and downs. So I'm happy.
Yep.
We've done 6-figure months. We're really on the
right
awesome. Track to maybe hit 7 figures in maybe a few months from now.
Good on you.
So very happy with it. But that said, it's it's very stressful at times.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
Which may be also something that it's going to be hectic, it's going to be challenging, but if you've never done this before, you also don't really know how it will turn out and how it will be.
Yeah.
So that's also been an eye opener, right? Like we work for 2 times you work for these bigger companies, you work in large teams. There's always like a fallback. There's always
you're still going to get paid. Yeah. Even if
And
they screw you on bonus like 2 times you did, but anyway. So what are those sleepless nights then? You know, talk to us about that. What is the stress? Is it cash flow? Is it product quality? Is it inventory management? Is it advertising and marketing? It's probably all of them, right?
All of those are different. So for me, like with product, it's always still if it's gonna arrive, you do like a quality inspection.
Okay.
So at least what I would suggest and what we do is when a shipment is about to be shipped towards our warehouse here in Melbourne, we hire a third-party inspection agency to check that shipment, check the PO.
Yep.
Now you hear a lot about like corruption and fraud because, again, we're not there on the ground.
Yep.
But so far it has been working out pretty well for us that the shipment and the PO and the quality has been to our expectation.
Okay.
But that's still something that keeps me up. Like if what's going to arrive here in the port of Melbourne, if it's going to be that what we expect it to be.
Yeah.
And I guess as with every business cycle, you got busy weeks, you got slower weeks.
Yep.
And during those slower weeks, you start to question everything. And on the good weeks, you think you're on top of the world, and you're building up a $1 million brand. It's like the highs are high and the lows are low.
Ah, good on you, mate. Yeah, I can imagine. But 12 months in, I think it's a fantastic place where you're at now with so many lessons that you've learned. It's only going to hold you in great stead for the coming years. How have you got your message out there? How have you got Frankster? How do people know about Frankster? What sort of marketing have you done? What sort of brand campaigns have worked for you? Like, there's only so many, family and friends can buy some shorts. I guess you need to get that message out. So what's worked for you?
I think when you look at marketing channels, I believe this would be pretty generic for every like young, early stage consumer brand.
Yep.
90% of our marketing budget goes to Meta.
Okay.
Which is also crazy when you think about it. You basically between 20 and 50% of revenue goes to the pocket of Zach.
Yeah.
But I think that is how you can really share to a large audience about your brand, your product, your messaging, what you stand for. That's how you can get it across. It's all visual.
Yeah,
with creative and with copy, you can do a lot.
I was going to mention that. So you went Meta first because you essentially had an awareness problem that no one knew who you were. Therefore, if you went Google first, you're probably going to get bidded against pretty competitively, and no one knows who you are. So there's no credibility. So you went to Meta first, build up that awareness and audience, and get a few sales through the door, get some reviews, and grow it that way. Yeah.
And Google. I guess it depends on from every category to category. For us, it's a bit difficult.
Yeah.
Even though it's sort of let's call it a niche product for mass market. All the big boys, they also have men's shorts and they advertise on Google.
And they can lose on a pair of shorts and win over the long term with other products.
Exactly. And if you now type in Google and you type in men's chino shorts, you got your Timus for like shorts that are $15 or $20. Also, they advertise heavily. So when it comes to things like Google Shopping and search, it's actually kind of very difficult to get good cost per clicks and sort of to win that auction.
Yeah, nice.
So we still rely predominantly on Meta to bring in traffic and conversion. Of course, as the brand grows, you got more and more existing customers that are returning. So that pool is getting larger and larger, but still for new customers, it's predominantly Meta.
Yeah, okay, nice. And in terms of like this organic social and content piece, how do you juggle that whilst running an e-com brand that's just over 12 months old and is having kind of 6-figure months? How do you get time to do your content and where's that content piece fit into the growth, the brand growth?
Yeah, it's difficult.
Am I just stressing you out by asking you that question?
It's always prioritizing, right?
Yeah.
It's like for us, I mean, we're self-funded.
Yep.
It's my savings. We spend between $600 and $1,000 a day on Meta.
Okay.
So first priority would still be focusing on Meta, and then we get good returns on the ads that we're pushing live, because there's just so much own money going into that machine.
Yeah. How much then do you spend on the creative for those ads? Like, how often are you updating that? Is that regularly filming?
We try to, but it also it works best if we do it in batches.
Okay, yeah.
So that we, for a certain week, that we block out 1 or 2 days to get a lot of content going. That will help us then for the coming whatever few weeks is that we have.
Yeah.
Now we sell also men's shorts. We're located in Melbourne. We're not always blessed with perfect weather.
Yeah.
So during those summer months, we like to also use the opportunity to create the content that we need for the coming months that we're gonna need it for.
Yeah. I love watching your content because I can pick. You know, like I'm a Bayside guy like you. I can really pick like, oh, he's at this park or he's at that park. I can really like see where you're doing the shots. So to me, that's pretty cool. Like you know, a parochial Melburnian at heart here, even though the politicians have done their best to try and ruin it. They've done a pretty good job to ruin it, actually. But I do. I love seeing your ads and your content because it's so Melbourne. Yeah,
absolutely.
Love it.
Like we always go like South Melbourne, Albert Park,
St Kilda, Catani Gardens.
Great spot for shooting content.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So then you got, you know, we're coming into winter. How many people are buying shorts in winter? I know this will probably be your second winter. But obviously, then does that affect the way you market in terms of Melbourne? And do you spend more in Perth and Queensland? People going away on holidays? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, well, so there's seasonality, of course.
Yeah.
The winter months, well, we're live for 12 months, so it's difficult to say.
Yeah, there's no
active trends. But last year in 2024, the slowest months were June, July, August.
Yep.
And then sort of mid-August, you saw it picking up again. You also see it like in Google with the volume of searches, like mid-August, it starts to trend up. I mean, in a way, we're lucky that we live in a country like Australia. During those winter months, like what we sell in shorts in Melbourne would be relatively lower versus those summer months.
Yeah.
But then you still got places in Queensland, northern Queensland, where it's still beautiful weather and people still wear shorts.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of places in Australia where guys wear shorts 12 months a year.
Even in Melbourne, there's a few. There's a few guys.
Luckily, there's still volume.
Yeah.
There's still business, but there is seasonality in it.
Yeah, nice. So where do you go, mate? Where's the next 12 months look like? What's the future of Frankster now? As you know, we sit here and we do this podcast again in 12 months' time. What do you think you'll be talking about? You mentioned that you're sort of expanding the collection a little bit, but are you gonna add pants? Why are we not doing pants? What are we gonna do with shorts?
No. So we keep on focusing on men's shorts.
Beautiful, love it.
I really believe there's still a lot of growth.
What makes your shorts better than anyone else's? Why should I buy Frankster? I'm gonna hit hard-hitting questions here. Why should I buy Frankster? Or what makes your shorts better than anyone?
So if you look at most of the other brands that I've seen and also that I worked for, shorts is an afterthought.
Yep.
Right, when you go for the bigger fashion brands, they focus on the tops, they focus on the trousers, and shorts is like a nice little piece to have, but they don't put the heart and soul into it.
Yep.
And that's of course what we do. This is our bread and butter.
Yep.
So we better make sure that we make the perfect shorts that there is.
Yep.
When it comes to the fabric, the fit, the little details, the branding, like cheeky messages that we have in the shorts, I don't think you find them anywhere else.
Nice.
So, like I said earlier, there's a lot of brands selling shorts, but I don't think there is a shorts brand like us that really puts so much effort into it. So, I really think that all of those things set us apart.
Yeah, beautiful.
And I truly believe that. And I think also if you look at sort of the result and the traction that we got, every day we've got now between 5 and 10 5-star reviews from guys loving the shorts that we have. So, I think that's sort of the best evidence and testimonials that you can get. Yeah,
those returning customers, I mean, they help your profit in terms of, you know, you've acquired them and then they bought other colours and that obviously helps with some cash flow and some margin there after spending on Meta.
I've got like the craziest stories also. Like when you're starting a brand, like every order is important.
Yeah.
And you also you check every order just to make sure that sort of where does it go to, what are they ordering.
Absolutely.
And then the first few months I started to see like returning customers, but they don't just come back for another pair of shorts. for example, there was a customer, he ordered 1 pair of black shorts, and 2 weeks later he comes back and orders 6 more. Of the same size, same color.
Really?
And at that time, you're a small brand. You want to make sure that there is nothing fishy going on.
Yeah.
So actually reach out to the customer and just ask, like, hey, did you make a mistake, or you actually want to order 6 pair of black shorts because you already ordered one? He says, yeah. I just wear them all the time, and when I have 7, then I only have to do washing once every month, and I can still wear the same shorts every single day.
Brilliant.
And that's fantastic, right? Those are customers that that really help your brand also propel, especially in those early stages.
Yep.
And this is one example about one colorway, but there's heaps of stories where just guys, when they find something that they like, I mean, in a way, we're pretty easy when it comes to shopping, I guess.
Yeah.
When we find something we like, we're pretty loyal and stick to that brand, and we'll order more from it. So I think also we're benefiting from that.
Yeah, fantastic. And so it's a good that's a good lead into another question that I like to ask on the podcast a lot is, how do you know your customers? Like, what's that relationship like between you and the customers? I guess early days you can have those relationships, but how do you keep in contact with them? How do you keep engaging with them? Excuse me. Do you call them? Do you email them? Do you chat to them on social? Like, how do you get that feedback from customers and continue to kind of find more of them?
Yeah, well, I think it's super important to stay connected. I think you do it in whatever way that you can find.
Yeah.
I remember in the early days, literally every order I put in like a handwritten card.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Just a little like thank you, and if you have any feedback, just let me know. And people do reach out and they send their feedback about what they like and what they don't like, and what we should develop next.
Yep.
So also a lot of the product development right now is based on the customer feedback.
Yep.
Obviously, you're across the social. People are saying to your organic content, to your ads. People also respond to emails.
Yep.
So sometimes also we still send out an email just asking for sort of feedback, what they think about the brand, and they can always send us an email. And I also personally always read them and send a reaction back.
Okay.
And now as we are growing and as the volume is increasing, what I find super useful is like post-purchase questionnaires.
Yes.
Now this is of course for customers who went through that process and did make a purchase.
Yep.
But I need like asking where they're going to use the shorts for, what do they like about them, was there anything that almost prevented them from actually buying it?
Brilliant.
And then the most important question, what should we develop next?
Yeah.
Which also is pretty interesting. I never thought that I would be developing cargo shorts.
Yeah, okay.
But Aussies seem to really like cargo shorts. So later this year, some cargies will be launched.
There you go, an exclusive for eCommerce Australia. I love it. Yeah, cargo shorts, I'm not into them at all, but it's amazing how sort of popular they're becoming when you see some of even the bigger luxury brands are sort of having their own versions of cargo shorts. I'm like, geez, this is a thing. Like, it's just another thing that I'm behind on in terms of fashion trends. But fantastic. That's good to hear. So you really do take the time to ask for feedback, and it's all genuine. I'm assuming when you're having those 6-figure months, you probably can't write the handwritten cards anymore.
Nah. So one of those big milestones is that when you go to a 3PL.
Yeah.
And you lose a little bit that personal touch. You don't see like before. I was packing every order.
Yeah.
Like every night, like literally on the kitchen table when my little one would go to bed, I would be packing the orders and bringing it to the post office in the morning. And then on Sunday night, especially on those bigger weeks before going to a 3PL, I would be spending like 1.5, 2 hours from like 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. just packing orders.
Wow. Yeah. It's better than watching maths, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not really into it, actually. So now going through a 3PL was, of course, fantastic. They free up a lot of your time.
Yeah.
But you lose a little bit that ability, in this case, putting handwritten notes in there.
Yeah.
That becomes an absolute.
At what stage did you go to that 3PL?
We did it after 4 months.
Okay, so after 4 months.
And we were probably doing, I don't know, like 30K, like 300 orders a month.
Okay, yeah. Just any advice for people considering 3PLs? Like, what's any teething issues or what things?
Yeah. No, so when I was looking at 3PLs, because actually, even though we're based in Melbourne, like we discussed, the majority of my customers are in New South Wales,
okay,
in Sydney area.
Yeah.
So from a shipping point of view, it would actually make more sense to have my 3PL in Sydney.
Yep.
Or somewhere around Sydney in New South Wales to be closer to that, to the majority of the customers, have lower shipping costs.
Yep.
But in the end, we decided to still have it here.
Okay.
I do value that you can visit them. Did you also see your stock once in a while?
Yep.
Did you know what goes on?
Yep.
And if there's any issues, you can also meet in person.
Yep.
I think that always helps.
Okay.
So even though there might be some economical benefits to have the 3PL like further away from us, I still think we did a good job in picking one here, like close to Melbourne Airport.
Yep.
We've got good SLAs. In our case, any order before 2 p.m. will be shipped out the same day.
Okay.
Which, also with ecom, you do want to have that whenever somebody orders something.
Yeah.
It arrives at their doorstep pretty quickly, which now we can fulfill that.
Yep.
So so far, we're very happy about it.
Nice, mate. If you're going into your biggest sellers are in New South Wales, here's an idea. Here's a suggestion without any context, but state of origin shorts, maroon shorts, sky blue shorts. Surely that makes sense, doesn't it?
I got so many. I even wanted to develop like shorts just with the Australian flag.
Oh yeah.
Like some really good like national symbol kind of shorts.
Mate,
maybe at some point it's like a capsule collection.
You know those Vibram 5-finger toe shoes that come out. You've seen them. So my friends who probably don't listen to this podcast, but I got nominated for Shit Shoe of the Year. It was an award that they made up after they seen what I wore. But I walked into the Ocean Beach Hotel, the OBH in Perth, and I had these Australian flag 5-finger Vibram shoes. And I remember them just absolutely bagging. And I'll put a photo up on this podcast so people can see the visual. But yeah, it's the Australian flag will attract a certain type of purchaser. Maybe
I think so too.
Maybe they're all going to Bali, and who knows. But mate, look, it's been great to learn more about your journey early on. I'm really looking forward to watching the brand continue to grow, and it's so exciting to see that not only you're a long time listener of the podcast, but we now catch up and we're good mates, and I really want to see how the next 12 months go, and it'd be good to have you back on in 12 months' time and kind of get the lessons you've learned from year 1 to year 2 and see what that journey looks like.
Deal, but then we have to get you into some Frankster shorts.
I do, yeah. I need to wear some. I'll only go and purchase some. Yeah, 100%.
Great, man. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I think it's also a great opportunity for like a young brand like us to be here on the show. And in 12 months, we're sitting here again with more types of shorts, and we're going to kit you out a little bit better than what you are wearing today.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
All right, cheers.